In the UK, there is an ongoing trial right now. It's actually taking place as we speak. In fact, the jury, and I know they do things a little bit different there, but my understanding is the jury is out for deliberation, is the word that I would understand to use. And I'm going to tell you about this story here in a second. This tragic, just it's depressing to read about. I read through the whole transcript. Story here. But before we do that, I want to look at something here to kind of set things in context. Let's look at some resources that the Christian church has provided by analyzing Scripture for the topic that we're going to be talking about today. Let me just flip my screen here. Specifically, I'm talking about a book called Wise Parenting. Wise Parenting. This is a book that is actually written by one of my former professors at Phoenix Seminary named Dr. Paul Wegner. Dr. Paul Wegner. And he wrote this book called Wise Parenting. I used to own this book. And I remember I gave it to somebody who, I can't remember who off the top of my head, but somebody who had newly had kids or something like that. And so I don't own it anymore. I do frequently give away books. And this is a book that I did own. And I remember when he published it, I think I was in his class, or he had just recently done it. And this is the PDF of the book, though. But we're just going to look at it real briefly here because I do want to recommend this resource to you. He co-wrote this also with his wife, which I think is pretty cool, isn't it? It is really cool. And let me see if I can make this bigger. I can tell here. The reason is I don't just want to cover the sad news story. I want to also explain that you can have resources so you don't end up like this mom and this child. This was published back in 2009, and it does a great job of breaking down the biblical message on discipline, what the Bible does and doesn't say about discipline. Now, obviously, the Bible does talk about disciplining children. Hopefully no one debates that. But there are questions about the propriety of how and what should be done and not should be done and all that kind of stuff. And Proverbs is a great place to turn to get wisdom. And so in this book, he breaks it down where it all begins. Chapter 2, laying the foundation. A wise parent instructs, teaching the guidelines. A wise parent warns, reiterating the guidelines. A wise parent disciplines, enforcing the guidelines. And then he gets into a discussion about the spanking dilemma, sometimes called corporal punishment. Beyond a parent's responsibility, God's use of discipline, praying for our children. And so I just want to recommend this book to you by Dr. Paul Wegner. And he starts off with a very powerful scripture and prayer that I would like to share as well with you before we cover this news story. Children are a gift from the Lord. They are a reward from him. Isn't that true? That is true. Unfortunately, we live in a culture that more and more devalues children. We live in a culture that more and more does not understand the importance of children and family. And it's not just here in the United States, it's all over the world, especially in what's traditionally called the West. Places like Russia certainly have their problems, but at least they're trying to push that. And then we've also got places where Islam is dominant, and they get some things right? But they get a lot of things wrong. And that's because they copy the Bible and the Quran, but then they deviate from the Bible and the Quran. And so Muslims do likewise. But I think it's amazing how he's a trained Old Testament scholar, and then was able to co-author this with his wife, Kathleen. And I also had help from even a clinical social worker there, as mentioned in the acknowledgments. And we're not going to be able to get too deep into this book, okay? But I just want to show you that it's a pretty cool resource that I recommend to you, all right? So you see some of the little call-outs here. And let me just read from some of these scriptures, okay? So the point of this is to show that there is a biblical way to discipline, and what this woman did in the UK is not that. Understand? Is not that. Proverbs 13:24 says that if you refuse to discipline your children, it proves you don't love them. If you love your children, you will be prompted to discipline them. This is the essence of what it's saying there. And in Proverbs 23:13 through 14, the essence of what it says there is don't fail to correct your children. They won't die if you spank them. Physical discipline may well save them from death. That's in essence what those are saying. Now, the problem is we do live in a world in which there's just child abuse and neglect. And I've been involved with the foster care system, and I've seen the effects of that firsthand. I don't even want to start talking about it. I'll go off into a tangent and just really it'll break my mind because I saw some horrible, awful things that parents had done to their own children. But this is what is so powerful about this book, even just this basic guideline. And he shows that this is in Proverbs, teaching the guidelines, reiterating the guidelines, and then enforcing the guidelines. Simple and true and correct. So step 3 is the enforcement. After the guidelines are laid out, though, that is, of course, the key. And this is a book you could do with others because you notice there's study questions there. And then he has the idea of practicing it. And it all was based upon Proverbs because Proverbs says, teach your children to choose the right path. And when they are older, they will remain upon it. And he talks about the theological underpinnings of discipline, and that there's multiple levels of discipline, and how parenting is a skill that takes effort. And he even breaks it down right here. This is such a great little chart. Let me make this a little bit smaller so that we can see this here. Sorry, that's the fire sound right here. Just a second. You won't be able to perfectly see this. I have another slide I may be able to show you as well. But this is a book I'm encouraging everyone to buy. And so you can hope you can see this, but this is almost just a teaser. Now, today's show is not about this book. I'm just trying to give you a resource that I think is very helpful here. Because what happens is this gal who abused and ultimately ended the life of her child, the 30-year-old Christina Robinson from Durham in the UK, she said she got this information from a Hebrew Israelite teacher. And that's what she puts it on, and thought that she was doing the right thing according to the Bible. But obviously she wasn't. So level 1 is teaching the guidelines. Here's the 3 principles of that. You must teach appropriate behavior. You must inform of improper behavior. So there's the positive and the negative side. Principle 3 is explain the negative consequences of disobedience. And every single one of these things you see show up in Proverbs. Level 2 is reiterating the guidelines. You give appropriate warnings. Level 3 is enforcing the guidelines. A reprimand with non-corporal punishment. So this is the way the book of Proverbs lays it out. Principle 2 is a reprimand with non-abusive corporal punishment. That is in there as well. And that's what was abused here as well. Now, beyond a parent's responsibility has to do with the government's role in discipline. Continued disobedience may bring severe punishment. And that's in Proverbs. Of course, that also shows up in Romans. What a helpful little chart that shows there's an increase there in severity as it goes along. Very, very helpful, very practical, excellent. And it's funny, there's a little section where he breaks down the a toddler's worldview, which obviously is self-centered and sinful ultimately. They're a product of being sinners. And that's something that sometimes people get offended about by Christianity, is the fact that it does teach that children are born sinners. People get really upset when they hear the things that John Calvin says about babies and children, but it is true. So I'm just going through this real quick, not because you can read it all. The point is, again, to whet your appetite. So if you are a parent out there, yes, we can read a story like this that I'm about to show you that is very trying to your sensitivities and very trying upon your emotional state when you really think about what happened. And I'm not even going to go into all the detail. But at the same time, we have to not just say, well, at least I'm not doing that. We have to also say, how do I do it biblically? How do I do it in wisdom? And Proverbs is such an excellent place for us to start and to begin. And I really think it's helpful the way Dr. Wegner has systematically went through this. And so we can also go through this and think through things, because some of us parent just based upon what we've heard, what our parents did, what's popular sometimes, what's easy. There's all kinds of bad ways that we parent. And I think that we know that. We know that, but we don't want to be like that. We don't want to do this, do we? No. And so we really want to be thoughtful as parents. And if you say it's too late, they're old, well, you know what? Read this book, apologize to them, and then help them with their kids. How about that? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this down, and when we return to that, we're going to try to actually look at another PDF that I have here later on that is related to this, and I think it's very well done by a scholar that I really appreciate what he does. And so let me just put it on the screen so it's ready for next time when we return to this. But with just that sort of forewarning and putting things in context and hopefully a note of humility and instruction, we are going to talk about the title here today. And you can see the picture on the screen there. That is the child who was killed by his own mom, as they say in the UK. 3-year-old toddler. And shortly after they got there to help him, he passed. And I think now we need to actually look at the story itself. And we're going to go ahead, and I got a whole bunch of files open to help us look at this together. And let me just go ahead and bring this on the screen, and we're going to read some of this story together. Just give me a second, because I need to readjust a few things here with the screen to be able to do this. All right. How you all doing today? I know I haven't really talked to the live chat. I see you guys in here, though, and I appreciate every one of you. I really do, especially during, I mentioned a little bit, going through a time of transition here with the ministry in a variety of ways, as far as housing and rent, some of those kinds of things increasing, which a lot of people know about and are experiencing right now. So we're going to just look at a number of different stories that I already have laid out about this, and you guys are going to find out what is going on, which again, this is going to be hard to read, okay? All of this is going to be hard to look at. This program is not monetized. This program is not monetized, just FYI, because well, to me, I think that's sort of an ethical way to go about this in a situation like this. So any commercials or anything like that, that's all YouTube, because I have put it to have no monetary settings, but sometimes they just do what they want. Okay. Yes, the woman was a Hebrew Israelite who did this to her child. And yes, she was watching Hebrew Israelite videos online. Shout out to Larry Love for the very first super chat, and I do appreciate your support. It's not easy to cover stories like this, but I think it's important. In fact, there is a poll, and I asked the audience, I would love to hear their perspective and opinion about if I should cover stories like this, which let's see, right now, 79% of the people say I should cover it. 11% say I should not. 9% they are not sure. Okay, so that's just a poll real quick, but let's continue. Oh, I clicked right off, didn't it? Yeah, that's my fault. Just give me a second. All right. Boy 3 died from brain injury and burns. Court hears March 7th, 2024. This is from the BBC. Pretty reliable source, all things considered, as far as the news that they actually deliver. Pamela Tickle and PA Media report. A 3-year-old allegedly murdered by his mother died from a combination of a brain injury and burns, jurors have been told. Christina Robinson is accused of causing a fatal head injury to her son by violently shaking him at their home in Ushaw Moore, Durham, and of having scalded his legs and buttocks in the weeks before his death, as well as hitting him with a bamboo cane. So this is part of a pattern that this mother has engaged in. And according to her, she was a follower of Hebrew Israelism and somewhat new to the faith, as she said, and got some of these ideas, she said, from watching videos on YouTube from teachers of Hebrew Israelism. So far, I have not seen which videos, but that is something that would be very beneficial to look at the videos she was watching. But so far, that has not been given in the media, so we do not know the exact videos, but that would be very instructive, wouldn't it? Newcastle Crown Court has heard she claims she was allowed to chastise the boy according to the teachings of the Bible. And this really goes back to some of the reasons why a lot of Christians have such a strong problem with Hebrew Israelism, is because they'll claim that their teachings are from the Bible, won't they? That's exactly what they'll claim. And then they'll do stuff like this. And it makes actual Bible believers look bad. And this is the kind of stuff that results in people getting their kids taken away because they'll say, we do biblical discipline. And a lot of people who don't know or care about the Bible, they're thinking we're going to be like this lady. The defendant 30 denies murder and a child cruelty charge. Warning, this article contains distressing content. Home Office pathologist Dr. Nigel Cooper told the court he carried out a postmortem examination and found Dwelaniah had suffered 20% burns to his body, which would have been extremely painful. He weighed 2 st, 3 pounds. I don't actually understand that. I'm so sorry. I'm an ignorant American right here. I don't know what 2 st is. 14 kilograms. It was 3 feet 2 inches, 97 centimeters tall at the time of his death in November 2022, the pathologist recorded. Mrs. Robinson claimed her son was injured by hot water when he was playing in the shower, although the prosecution disputes that, saying he was deliberately scalded. She did not seek medical help for the burns, treating his injuries herself, the jury has heard. And what's so awful is, you know what she did? This child was burned on his legs and buttocks and genitalia. And then when he would defecate, it would... I read this whole story. It would infect the burns, which were turning into these open, festering wounds. But to make it worse, she caned him on where the burns were, where he had already been physically traumatized. She caned him on top of that. So this is horrible. Dr. Cooper said the infected burns would have contributed to the youngster's death to some extent because his body would have been working hard to cope with the trauma, repairing the damage, and fighting infection. Asked about their impact, he told the court, Dwelaniah was not a fit and healthy 3-year-old. He added, it is likely he would have died anyway, but he would have been in a better position to withstand the head injury had he not suffered the burns. Mrs. Robinson claimed Dwelaniah choked while eating a cheese bap, but Dr. Cooper said that did not account for the head injuries he found. So this lady's just lying nonstop about what happened to this boy. She's directly responsible, and she's just lying. Oh, playing in the shower, you know. She contacted emergency services on 5 November, claiming her son had stopped breathing after his eyes went all weird while he was eating. Dwelaniah's heart had stopped, and he could not be saved by hospital staff. The jury has been told Mrs. Robinson, who was originally from Tamworth, Staffordshire, was having an affair with a man she met on a dating site and got pregnant using a separate sperm donor. You know, I know that what will happen is Hebrew Israelite will watch this and they'll just say, well, this lady was a bug out. And here's the thing is that a lot of people who are, quote, bug outs are the ones who end up getting attracted to this strange religion. And then this strange religion encourages bug out behavior. Now, I'm using their terminology. This is the way they excuse when this kind of thing happens. You know what else a lot of times these people say? The Hebrew Israelites who are followers of this religion, they'll say, oh, well, this is a plant. This is a government attempt to start to persecute us, take away our kids. This wasn't really one of us, they'll try to say. But this gal is just an all-around piece of work, as it were. She's married to a guy who's getting trained in the Royal Air Force, okay? She's having an affair with a different man that she met on a dating site, and then she had got pregnant using a different sperm donor. Her husband was away working for the RAF at the time of their son's death. The court has heard. The trial continues. So we're going to go in order now. So we're going to go to the BBC again. This is March 11th. Notice how the dates are moving up. I do have these in order. Boy's blood found on teddy bear. Murder jury hears. This is from March 11th, 2024. Blood from a 3-year-old boy was found on his teddy bear in different rooms in his family home, a court has heard. Christina Robinson is accused of murdering her son, Dwellanaya, by violently shaking him at her house in Bracken Court, Moore, County Durham. She is accused of scalding him, causing burns to his legs and buttocks, and of using a bamboo cane to hit him in the weeks before his death. Now, that's a particular part, that specific part, the bamboo cane, that's the part she says she got from a YouTube video of a Hebrew Israelite teacher. She's not claiming that a Hebrew Israelite teacher taught her to do all of this stuff, but the discipline, yes, she's saying because it's biblical, and the caning specifically, yes. That's my understanding because I've read through this all. Prime Minister 6'6" says that this ain't it vocab. He says, let me put this on the screen here. He says, this ain't it vocab. Horrific story, but you could have let this one go, brother. No fan of fake Hebrews, but... Well, so I did have a poll up there, Prime Minister 666. I do have a poll where people can comment on if I should cover stuff like this or not. And I see that you would vote no, which I respect, and that's okay. Obviously, I differ because I am, I am obviously covering it. And here's what I would say is this. Would you know about this if I wasn't doing a program on it? Would you know about this, Prime Minister 66, if I was not covering this today? Would you know about it? I think if you're honest, someone will certain answer is going to be no, you would not know. And that's exactly why I am doing it. Because I do think people do need to know. And here's the other thing. There's a pattern to this. I'm not even going to show you all the other stories where this does happen. But I got to tell you, this is much more common than you realize with Hebrew Israelites and their children. And I do have multiple stories, and I'm not going to cover them all today, but it's a real thing. And I know we're going to have a couple of detractors, and they're going to want to talk about so-called Christian atrocities and all kinds of other stuff. And okay. But we need to cover this because you need to know if your spouse gets involved with Hebrew Israelism and they're going to start raising your children, you need to know if you're going through a divorce and a separation because of this religion, you need to do everything you can to get those kids. Yeah, I said what I said. And that is her. That's the gal when they came to her house. I'll actually show some of the police footage later on. Now look at this. Look what this says. Newcastle Crown Court heard Mrs. Robinson claim she was allowed to chastise her son according to the teachings of the Bible. Now, is that right, everyone? No, you know that's not right, what she did. But the thing is, she was getting some kind of Hebrew Israelite interpretation, and she thought this was okay. Closing the prosecution case, Richard Wright, KC, read out a series of agreed facts, which included the forensic scientists found bloodstains on Dwellanaya's teddy bear. Bloodstains were also found on the kitchen door frame, a rug in the lounge, the stairs, a panel in the bathroom, and on carpet in front of his cot. Listen to these about the hot water injuries. This is horrible. Mr. Wright told the court that the totality of the blood of Dwellanaya found around the home was greater than might be expected from minor injuries. Traces of his blood and skin were found on a bamboo cane, the court heard. The court previously heard how Mrs. Robinson claimed her son was injured by hot water while he was playing in the shower. The prosecution disputes this and claims he was deliberately scalded. Dwellanaya died from a combination of a brain injury and burns. His mother did not seek medical help for the burns and treated his injuries herself, the court heard. The defense is due to give evidence on Tuesday. The trial continues. He's held in hot, boiling water before his death. He was held in hot, boiling water before his death. This is from 7 days ago, BBC. All the stories I've read so far are from the BBC. We have other sources we're going to look at here. This is a photo released from the Durham police. This photo was released by the Durham police, and he was fatally injured by the mum. A mum accused of murdering her 3-year-old son did not seek help for her scald injuries because she thought it looked bad for her, jurors heard. This is what this lady really said. Christina Robinson had 26 burns affected on his legs the weeks before he was fatally injured in his home near Durham in November 2022. Christina Robinson, 30, who denies murder and crowd cruelty, told Newcastle Crown Court she did not realize a hot shower was hurting him. She admitting hitting him with a cane. Warning, this article contains distressing content. The court has heard Willen has died from a combination of the burns, which covered his lower body and brain injury suffered at his home in Ewsham Moor on 5 November. Do we have any UK? Do we have any UK listeners? I would like to get some context on some of this if you have information about anything like this. Fortunato Martino needs to be timed out. Mods. And if he comes back talking that way, he will be permanently removed. This is your one chance, Mr. Martino. You know what you said. Miss Robinson told jurors she went to shower on the morning of 19 October after he soiled his pajamas. So what happens is, it's kind of obvious what happened is, she burned him in hot scalding water because she was upset that he peed himself. This is a 3-year-old. You know? She said he was already crying and screaming as he feared the shower head, and she did not realize the water had got so hot. Afterwards, he was quiet, and she noticed his legs had gone a burgundy color, Miss Robinson said under questioning from her barrister, Jamie O'K.C. The court heard she made multiple internet searches over the following days about how to treat burns and order bandages, painkillers, dressings, and antiseptic creams. Miss Robinson said she thought it was only a very minor wound, which she could treat, but realized it was a more serious after 3 days. At that point, when I realized the actual damage and extent of the burns, so many days had passed and I just felt ashamed, Miss Robinson said, adding she felt really, really bad and knew it would look really bad for her. This lady cared more about that than the health of her own child. She said she felt responsible for doing this by accident to him, and it was her responsibility to take care of it, adding, I went straight into care mode. The trial was heard Mr. Robinson was having an affair with 27-year-old Chisholm Innocent Onaja from Middlesbrough, while her husband, Gabriel Adu Apu, was working away with the RAF near Aylesbury, Buckinghamshire. In messages sent to Mr. Onaja, Miss Robinson said her son would get a major A-kicking after spilling vitamin pills. So she's texting him, saying that. Stop the Cap says, I'm not sure why you're calling her an Israelite. It doesn't matter either, or she's a murderer. I am calling her that because that's what she described herself as. I'm calling her that because she said she was watching a video by a Hebrew Israelite teacher who told her to do some of the things she did. That makes perfect sense. Just wait. We're going to get into this even more. We're going to read this and you're going to see. Yeah, I'm not sure why you're... Oh, okay, come on now. Hold on, let me fix this. Okay, there we go. Yes, it is difficult to read. No doubt about that. Miss Robinson said that did not necessarily mean physical punishment, adding she was just in a mood. She admitted she did slap him on the back in chastisement, adding it wouldn't have been gentle. This is what the lady said about what she did. It wouldn't have been gentle. This is a toddler, but he had not been injured by it. Look at this, obedient to God. This religion is a scorn upon the word of God because it claims it's doing stuff in the name of God. And yet, look what actually happens. This religion is a scourge upon the Bible because it makes the Bible look like this is what it's about, this kind of stuff. Miss Robinson also admitted striking Delwanaya across the chest with a cane just an hour or so before he collapsed. She told the court it was the first time she had ever hit her son with the cane and did it to stop him messing about with his food. If you've had a toddler, you know they play with food. Almost every baby has a baby picture with spaghetti sauce all over their mouth. Now look at this next line. And this is why I do not doubt that I should be doing this program. I absolutely should. I understand people feel differently or they don't want to listen. I do understand that. Miss Robinson said she was a new follower of the Black Hebrew Israelites and had been watching videos which said a rod should be used to chastise a child. She said she, quote, honestly thought she was, quote, doing the right thing, adding, I just really wanted to be obedient to God, and I thought this was part of it. So in Hebrew Israelism, you have men and women who should not be teaching the Bible because most of the times they're unregenerate themselves. They're not believers. They're essentially unbelievers, pagans, heathens. You can use different terms you want to say there. The ungodly, the wicked, teaching the Bible and using it as a source of authority, and they do not have understanding. And then they're teaching it to other people who usually do not have understanding and discernment. So it's a very bad chain reaction. And this is the kind of thing you get. This is what we're talking about. Old School Saint says it's a very short jump from hating others to inflicting harm on your own. That is so true. The cases of this happening are way more frequent than people realize because I have not covered it all. I just haven't. Now, stop the cap. Now, do you understand why I'm calling her a Hebrew Israelite? Because she is, and that's her motivation. That's her reasoning here. Oh, let me fix this here a little bit. I hope people understand. I really do hope they understand. But even if they don't, we've got to do what we've got to do. This is where she's on trial at. Do you guys understand? This is very, very fresh. The jury is deliberating. They're about to give a sentence. Christina Robinson is on trial at Newcastle Crown Court. In cross-examination, Richard Wright KC said Dwellanaya had suffered more than 60 injuries, including 19 apparently inflicted by the cane. He asked if she stood by a claim made to detectives that she had done her best by her son, or would she accept she had failed him completely? Miss Robinson replied, apart from where she was misguided with the scriptures. So look at this. This is part and parcel to this case. Look at this. Look what's on the screen. You guys see what's on the screen? What's on the screen? What do you see on the screen? Miss Robinson replied, apart from where she was misguided with the scriptures and not taking him to the hospital, that, yes, she did the best that she could for her child. Gargling noise. Miss Robinson said, Dwellanaya made a gargling or gasping sound while eating a cheese bap on the living room floor and collapsed shortly before 1600. She said he carried him upstairs. It should be she. Scooped food out of his mouth and did an internet search for performing CPR on a child. Mr. Hill asked her why she did not contact emergency services for about 20 minutes, to which Miss Robinson replied, it honestly did not cross my mind. It really, really didn't. Ms. Robinson refuted a police officer's claim she lacked any urgency to follow her son to the hospital and said she was not someone who showed public emotion. A lot of these folks might be sociopaths, you know. She said she lied to police when she told them Dwell and I had been playing alone in the shower when he was burned because she was afraid and ashamed. She denied shaking her son, adding she had low iron, so would not have had the energy to harm him. She said her son was clumsy, and she had seen him fall face first a number of times. The court heard she grew up in Tamworth, Staffordshire, and after 7 years living in Bulgaria, moved to the northeast with Mr. Adu Apu 6 months after Dwellanaya was born. She said by September 2022, she was completely done with their marriage, as her husband's career was more important to him. She said so what happens is she's left alone, and then she starts watching Hebrew Israelite videos. She said she wanted a very large family with double figures of children, but her husband did not, claiming he said he didn't care after she had several miscarriages. Ms. Robinson said Mr. Adu Apu disciplined Dwellanaya with punishments ranging from a telling off to something physical using utensils, shoes, or a piece of wood. She also admitted they would regularly leave their son home alone for up to half an hour at a time. A toddler? Leaving them alone? She said it was the norm for Dwellanaya to be left while she and her husband made a quick nip to the shops. If Mr. Adu Apu went for a run, or if he took her to a nail appointment. A nail appointment? Sister MJ, some of you guys' comments are totally off topic, but thank you, Sister MJ, for being on topic. Some of you, what are you talking about? Can you at least be on topic? I remember waking up with fuming anger for no good reason after following that false doctrine, so I'm just floored. Thank you. I appreciate it, to get that insight. Travis French, this is so hard to hear. Poor baby, it is. Do you know how long 20 minutes is? Emergencies minutes seem like hours. She had no intention of calling emergency services. Trust. Yeah. If they do responses to the show, they're not going to show the sympathy that should be to this child, and they'll just make it about me and all kinds of weird stuff. But if Hebrew Israelites love children and love their children, they wouldn't act that way when a story like this drops. They would deal with it differently. And honestly, they would thank me for bringing it to their attention, and they would be more careful about how they teach the Bible. We shouldn't have done it, she said, but added she always thought her son was safe. The trial continues. BBC 6 days ago. Christina Robinson's mother can't remember the caning details. Remember, 19 cane-like injuries before he collapsed. Now look what this says. Christina Robinson, 30, told Newcastle Crown Court she caned him in accordance with her religion, as he was being disobedient by playing with his food. I'm not going to say who right now, but I have watched a couple of programs where it's obvious the Hebrew Israelite, and these are leaders I'm talking about. One in particular, one specific person especially. And if he pushes me too much, I may say who it is and play the clips. This Hebrew Israelite teacher is clearly broadcasting from his house. Looks like a kitchen or something like that. And you can hear children in the background. And usually when the children come in, you don't see them, but you can hear them, and he'll talk to them sometimes. I even know their names. And usually he mutes himself, but this time he didn't mute himself. And they asked some question, and he asked them and told them that they were going to get their A's kicked on camera while they're talking to him. And they sound like very young children. And he talks about they're going to get an A kicking. This is right now. This is a person in leadership in one of the major One West camps who you can find clips of this person saying this to their children on camera. So this isn't, a far step away, and they'll say they're doing it because of what they're taught. Remember the guy up there in the northwest who starved his 2 teenage daughters to death because he thought he had to get right with Yahweh before he returned, because he was one of these doomsday Israelite guys. We did a whole story on this. We interviewed the parents. I don't know if you guys remember this. We interviewed the parents. Maybe Dinu or Nate or whoever else could drop the link where we interviewed those parents. They were starved to death, and all 3 of them died. And the children clearly died first. We interviewed, when I say parents, I mean the stepfather and the mother. They were separated. We interviewed them when this happened. We covered the story about how House of Israel in Cincinnati, all the way back in the 60s, a kid got a piece of cheese out of the fridge and they beat him to death. We covered how Austin Smith here in Phoenix, Arizona, not only killed his own wife, but 2 of his little daughters with a gun and then stacked their bodies on top of each other because he said it was what the Bible told him he should do. This is a guy I knew that I debated out on the street. All this is stuff. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. I'm not covering everything even now. She denies murder and child cruelty. The court has heard Dwellanai collapsed at his home, and you shall more shortly before 1600 GMT M5, November 22. Warning, this article contains distressing content. If you want to take a screenshot, this is the part right here. Now, look at this, what this says. You guys see this? Blames it on the Bible. This is the part right here. Take a screenshot here. You see this right here? What does it say? Look at this. Right there. His mother said she hit him with a bamboo cane about an hour before he was messing around with his food when she had told him not to. Miss Robinson, who was a follower of the Black Hebrew Israelites, said the Bible preached using a rod to correct children, so she thought hitting him was the right thing. There she is. Prosecutor Richard Wright KC asked her if she was responsible for all 19 so-called tramline injuries on his chest and legs. Mr. Robinson, okay, we read a lot of this before, but she said she cannot remember how many times she hit him in the chest. Said it was more than a single blow, but she had not been counting, could not now remember. And the judge said, well, could it have been as many as 19? And she said, I don't believe so, no. Mr. Wright asked her, Mr. Wright asked her if she caused 8 cane-like marks on Dwellaniah's shin, to which Miss Robinson said, I couldn't say. I don't remember, to be honest. The prosecutor also asked her 3 times how she felt about hitting her son, to which she replied, I believed I was doing the correct thing. Mr. Wright asked how Dwellaniah reacted when she was beating him. Miss Robinson said she couldn't say for certain, as it was a long time ago, but it was possible he gave flinches and winces. This is a 3-year-old. The court has heard Dwellaniah had suffered extensive scalding to his lower body on 19th October, which she said she accidentally caused while she was rinsing with a hot shower. Jurors were shown the shower head, which she used to cause the scald marks, with Ms. Robinson telling them she knew the shower could get too hot if the mixer tap was turned too high. Ms. Robinson said she checked the temperature of the water before applying it to her son, and it was fine, and she did not feel any heat from the shower or any hot splashes on herself as she showered her son. He was obviously screaming when this would be happening. Now, whenever I would be running the bath for my little ones way back in the day, what my mom always taught me to do is to put your elbow in there. And if it's too hot for your elbow, it's too hot. But, you try to be really careful, because I remember a couple times when I was too little and I would I had to take a bath or something that was too hot, and just the horrible feeling and how hot it was. And I would always worry that my kids would experience that. So I would go out of my way to make sure it wasn't. And I would even, if they, felt like they needed to get out, these are little ones. So I would say, come on out, and then run some more cold water in it. And then if it cooled down, to just add a little bit of hot water, But imagine 20% burns and scalding them like this, Mr. Wright said Dwellaniah's injuries were the textbook of a child that's been forcibly immersed into a bath of hot water, to which Miss Robinson replied, "That doesn't make any sense," as that's just not what happened. Obviously, this gal's a liar. All right. The prosecutor asked if she lost her temper and was disciplining Dwayne for soiling himself, but Miss Robinson denied that and said toilet training accidents don't warrant punishment. Well, yeah. The court heard she did not seek any medical attention and help for her son's burns despite knowing he was in pain, as she was ashamed. Did not think medical professionals would believe her account of how he got injured. Mr. Wright said it would have been in Dwayne's best interest to go to the hospital, but she had prioritized herself. Yes, unfortunately, I did put my feelings first. Look at this title, Going Off Scriptures. Isn't that how Israelites talk too? They exactly talk. They're going off Scriptures. It's exactly how they talk. More like going off the Scriptures. The court heard she sent messages to a man she was having an affair with, saying Dwayne would get a major A kicking and he would get exactly what he deserves after he scattered vitamin tablets on the floor. Miss Robinson said she was just venting, but admitted she slapped the 3-year-old after he had finished picking up the pills. Mr. Wright asked why, when he was severely injured with burns, she still wanted to punish him. I was going off the Scriptures. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. I was going off the Scriptures, and there is a scripture that says, correct the child, so I did that. She needs to read Dr. Paul Wagner's book. But instead, she was listening to a Hebrew Israelite teacher on YouTube. That's what the court transcript says. I read the whole thing up to date. I felt it was best to correct a child whenever a child was wrong. That doesn't equal burning and scalding and shaking and caning them. Remember, the ultimate way he died was, This is crazy to me that you would have someone here trying to do Hebrew Israelite apologetics for this. T-Brew is trying to make it that type of thing. Yeah, T-Brew, this program is not against corporal punishment. I was spanked a whole lot as a kid. Whole lot. Yeah, my sis. So that's not the kind of thing it is. Black people spank their children. She took it too far. You think, T-Brew? You think? Now you're contradicting yourself because then you say it's not an Israelite thing. But look at the other comment you just had. You're contradicting yourself. And now you're going to act like she was doing the right thing by caning him on the shin and the chest. The Bible says, spare the rod, spoil the child. We know that. We started off the show reading the book of Proverbs and talked about the levels of discipline. This is why you should never be teaching the Bible. And you are obviously listening to the wrong people. And this is why you believe what you believe. You're in a cult, a false religion, because you don't know how to interpret the Bible, but it suits your needs. So you just go with it. And look at this. And then trying to ask someone else, Walsh, do you spank your kids? Sister Abby says, teachers don't teach that. I have heard video after video of Hebrew Israelites talking about beating family members, specifically old GMS videos talking about beating their women. I've heard, there are multiple videos of this out there. It's not that far of a step to doing the same thing to your children. And when they talk about doing this to your women, they talk about slaps and hits on the face. They say some are open hand and some aren't. I've heard this kind of thing. Even Nathaniel, who's supposed to be the professional, disciplined one, said, this is the kind of joke your teachers make, said, get you a dark-skinned woman. Get you a dark-skinned woman. I've played this clip. I've shown this clip. So this is evidence. I've shown the clip of this. He says, Nathaniel, evaluation, he said, get you a dark-skinned woman because it hides the bruises better than a light-skinned woman. That's your teachers? Y'all are killing me. We pray not just for you, we pray for your children. We are scared to death for your children, you Hebrew Israelites. I would hate to be a child in a Hebrew Israelite household. Imagine the terror and the horror. You've seen how these folks act out in the street. I've seen camp videos, and I've played this on my show again. K-Dub and I watched this in San Miguel. where they bring their children to camp, some of these one Westers down in Florida and in Georgia. And then when they get some wacky white person to kiss and lick their boots, they have their toddlers and their little children come out as well and have these adults kiss their boots and children. This is the way y'all operate. Pathologist said Duola's death was caused by a combination of the burns and a brain injury caused by a violent shaking moments before he collapsed. Miss Robinson said she would not have the strength or energy to shake her son that day, as she had low iron caused by pregnancy, having become pregnant in September 22 from a sperm donor. She said she was completely clueless as to how her son died, but believed it was a choking incident. She admitted giving multiple lies to the police. So then at the end of the trial, she sacks her own lawyers, this gal. This is from the BBC just 5 days ago. She dispensed with her two barristers and solicitor. Miss Robinson, who was previously set behind the glass walls of the dock, C.S. Lewis had a book called God on the Dock. And that's how I found out what this meant in relationship to UK jurisprudence. Was in the front row of the lawyer's bench, accompanied by a security officer, when the judge, Mr. Justice Garnham, informed jurors of her decision on Friday morning. He said, Miss Robinson decided to dispense with the services of her barristers and solicitor. She is entitled to do that. Nobody's required to have a legal team representing them. She has decided to sack effectively her barristers and her solicitors, which she is entitled to do. And there she is. It is sad, Pam. And by the way, Pam, I am getting your shirt out. Pam, you wanted the blue, right? Not the pink? Just want to confirm on that. You were going for the blue, not the pink. I just want to confirm on that. Sister Abi, look what she says. We are Israelites or Hebrews. No, you're not. That's what you imagine yourself to be because you're embarrassed of who you really are. Leave out the word black. It's in the article. It's in the article itself. I'm reading the article. And that word Hebrewism. It's not called Hebrewism. It's Hebrew Israelism. And guess what, Sister Abi? You don't get to tell me how to run the thing. You just don't. So thanks for your advice, but no thanks. You're in a cult. It's like the sick person telling the doctor what to prescribe. We don't deal with isms. Certainly you're in an ism. You just don't recognize it because nobody in an ism recognizes they're in an ism. And schisms? What? Put some respect in the culture, not religion like Christianity. My goodness, can you even get out of the coherent? Just look at, you know what? Let's not block them, except for the one Martino earlier. I want people to see the way these folks do apologetics. Notice, where's the sympathy for the child? Has anyone seen that or noticed that from the Hebrew Israelites? No, it's all about defending their religion. Not one person has talked about how tragic this is, that one of supposedly an Israelite child is dead because of these actions. Not a one. The Christians are the ones showing the sympathy for the child because we actually care. We're not just here about ideologies. Do you notice that? Man, what's up with y'all, man? Y'all are twisted, man. Real twisted. It's in the article, Sister Abi. Right here. She admitted hitting him across the chest with a bamboo cane an hour or so before he collapsed at their home, but said she was trying to follow the Bible-based teaching of her religion, the Black Hebrew Israelites, which she said advocating using a rod to punish disobedience. She did this because he was messing around with his food, by the way. So I've read all BBC articles, but there are others. This is, for example, Birmingham Live. Cheating mum is a little more salacious, but it's true. It took almost 20 minutes to call for help for dying tot because she was searching the internet, court told. 3 years old. Let me make this a little larger as well. I'm going to show you what this says as well. You guys see this? The 30-year-old, a follower of the Black Hebrew Israelites religion, said she put the child in the recovery position before raising the alarm with emergency services. Here it is. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen. I want everyone to see what is on the screen. I'm going to make this larger. Make this larger. Everyone look at what's on the screen. I'm about to highlight it, okay? You ready? Pay close attention here. This is what I was telling you happened. The defendant, gosh, this is hard. The defendant said she had been following a YouTube video about her religion, which talked about the Bible encouraging the use of the rod for discipline. Well, Anaya was also accidentally burned, is what she says, while she washed him in the shower, she claimed. Like I said, she was watching a Hebrew Israelite teacher on YouTube. And you want to know why we're on YouTube and why? Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and go there. Why we street apologists like us, need your support in doing this, because we cover stuff like this, and we cover it in the same areas in which the lies are going forward. They're on YouTube, so we're on YouTube. You understand? Wow, Sister Abi, the whole time just defending her cult, not even once defending or displaying any kind of sadness towards the child. We don't refer to ourselves as Black Hebrew Israelites. First of all, some of you do. I got books on the shelf that prove it. We done know that we're black. Do we call Jewish people white Jewish people? No. By the way, what are you talking about? Hebrew Israelites always refer to the white Jews. That's all you guys say. You constantly talk about white Jews. You specifically put white in front of Jews on a regular basis. So yes, you do say white Jewish people. The insincerity in most Hebrew Israelite comments is just so stark, it drives one mad. I'm reading the article, folks. This is what the article says. Notice the Hebrew Israelites are so upset about the article saying Black Hebrew Israelite. That's what they're angry about. A child has been murdered by one of your own after watching one of your YouTube videos about caning children. And you're upset because the term Black Hebrew Israelites used in the article. Priorities. This is why we know your religion is wicked. You guys, it's like you don't get how bad you make yourselves look. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Then again, it's somewhat predictable. This is from 2 days ago. That's her. On 5th November, about an hour or so before he died, she made a caning him across his chest in line with the teachings of her religion, the Black Hebrew Israelites. That's what the article says. Be upset. That's what it says. And they've even got this on Twitter, the BBC News. I'm going to retweet this. People need to know about this story. Yes, I've already read the article. Thank you. The Independent also has it as well. But all these dumb ads that pop up on the Independent. But this is very recent as well. And the mom starts talking about how he had complications at birth, as if that has something to do with it. Look at the way she talks about her own child who is now no longer with us. It's so strange. Look at this. She told jurors that he had complications at birth. The defendant said, he did get stuck on the way out, which I did need assistance for it. He was starved of oxygen for a while. His eye was bulged and bloodshot. I'm not saying that this could have led to what happened. What happened? I mean, you shook him to death. But because no checks were done, we don't know if there was any damage. She's trying to say because of a difficult pregnancy, somehow it could have been involved. She said her son bumped into things and banged his head, and that he had appointments with eye specialists. We cannot say either way what effects it could have been over time. Well, then why didn't you get it checked out, lady? Why are you just beating him over here? Whether he was higher risk of having something happen. This is what this lady's saying. It's unbelievable. See, Robinson, who was originally from Tamar Shafshire, is a follower of the Black Hebrew Israelite religion, told the jury that prior to his death, she hit him with a bamboo garden cane as a correction for playing with his food. That's from the Independent. It's from 2 days ago by Tom Wilkinson. Another one, different title. Essentially the same article, though. It is the same article, just with a different title. And then if you go on MSN, they've actually got video. So I want to play briefly here the video here, okay? We're going to play the video. This is them showing up at her house. The Metro Police there in the UK. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a brief commercial after. Actually, here's what I'm going to do. We'll play a brief commercial now, and then we'll come back and play the video, okay? So here we go.
Hello, what's your name, sorry?
Christina.
Christina, do you want to tell me what's happened?
Yeah, so, oh sorry, so we were just downstairs, he was eating his food, and then all of a sudden, like, sort of like spluttering sounds, and then he just sort of like went limp.
Right.
And I didn't know what was going on. I just thought he was messing around because he doesn't chew his food very well.
Right.
So I didn't really notice straight away. And then when I saw that he went a bit limp, that's when I thought, okay, let me rush him upstairs and then try CPR. Called his dad. His dad's and then he advised me to call off. So I've been working on him maybe like 10 minutes. Like that, yeah.
So you called Dad first and then ambulance,
Yeah.
right? Wait, and you'd done CPR before you called Dad?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, I
Right.
started it straight away.
Okay, how long do you think he was struggling with his food for?
Oh gosh, to be honest, I don't even know. I don't even know, like, maybe like a few seconds, like 10 seconds or something.
And were you with him all of the time?
Yeah, I was with both of them.
Right.
Yeah, we were both down there
Okay.
eating and...
Did you tell ambulance you think it potentially was food or...?
Yeah, I did tell
right,
them, yeah.
okay.
Sorry, I'm just a bit out of breath from doing the CPR.
That's fine.
So that's the mother. That's the mother who you might watch that again. But you know what I want to do right now? I want to briefly come back to biblical discipline. Okay, and then after that, I'm going to show screenshots I have from the transcript of the court case itself. All right, so let's go back and talk a little bit about some biblical discipline here. I think this is important. So this is from Dr. Jason DeRouche, who was one of my favorite scholars by far, and he relies heavily on Paul Wagner's work here. And the reason is to kind of give us a break from the heaviness of this topic, and also to see what does the Bible actually say about it, okay? This is what I want to look at. So I'm going to go past some of the beginning stuff here from Dr. DeRouche. He talks about how Proverbs provides order, and this is a great lesson. And now it's going to come to order in families, specifically here, disciplining children. And notice now he's adapting this from a Jets article. Whenever you see Jets, everyone, I'll teach you little tricks of the trade or tools of the trade. Jets is for the Journal of Evangelical Theological Society. So every professional society has trade publications in essence. In the case of Jets, they're pretty common. They're white bound with blue writing on the front, and it'll say Jets. Cool name. It is a cool name. And that's what it stands for. So Dr. Wagner, of course, as an academic, wrote a more academic article that's a distillation of the more academic elements of his book that's obviously at a more popular level that I talked about in the beginning of the program. So this is adapted from his 2005 article. Later on, he turned it into the book in 2009. Actually, that's the way I should say it here. And so let's go here. So JSEP, interesting, says, I don't support the Hebrews at all, but I don't know if we can blame the religion for this. Well, she did. She did herself, right? I know Christians who teach to pop kids also. Jason, JSEP, have you been with this most of the program? Because she did way more than just pop her kid. And what I'm about to show you is there's appropriate biblical levels, JSEP, and we're not against corporal punishment. At least most Christians aren't, but this is way more. She seems to have gone way overboard from what they teach. I don't know why people like to make excuses for these folks. Yes, I understand that a Hebrew Israelite may say, don't do this, but it's weird how much this happens to them. Level 1, parents teach the guidelines. We teach the appropriate behavior. We inform of improper behavior. We explain the negative consequences of disobedience. Very helpful little chart here. Parents at level 2 reiterate the guidelines. So this is basically a lecture or a talk at this point to give appropriate warnings. Now, level 3 is when parents enforce the guidelines, a reprimand without corporal physical discipline. So that's the first step of level 3. And then if it happens again, the idea is there's a reprimand with non-abusive corporal physical discipline. That's where spanking would come into play. More so for young children, and that's another discussion if a person does spank. I think that's important. It is interesting, the Hebrew Israelites coming out of the woodwork right now. They just can't help themselves. Here's Shalom Yasharallah. Vocab used to drive out hating God. Did you know that? You just can't stay on topic, can you? You just don't care about this child or what the Bible says about discipline, do you? You want to talk about me. You just can't help it. And you're so concerned, you want to say, let me get this guy to not like, my goodness. Your religion is of the devil and it's blinded you. It's quite obvious that's the case. Level 4 is the government's role in discipline because continued disobedience may bring more severe punishment. So taking a look at this, I want to read this from Hebrews 12, which quotes Proverbs 3. And that's fascinating because Hebrews goes out of its way, the author there, to talk about the fact that we are under the new covenant. And yet the author still quotes Proverbs in this way. It's very instructive about the interaction between the Old and New Testaments here. My son, do not regard lightly the discipline of the Lord, nor be weary when reproved by him. For the Lord disciplines the one whom he loves and chastises every son whom he receives. It's very helpful. Now, so our discipline relates to God's discipline, meaning he should be the model for us. I hope we understand that. That's why it's important to see what the Bible says. So when we encourage the proper behavior, we see the model right there in Proverbs 1:8-9. Hear, my son, your father's instruction, and forsake not your mother's teaching, for they are a graceful garland for your head and pendants for your neck. That's beautiful, isn't it? And it's true. Proverbs 2:1-5. My son, if you receive my words, making your ear attentive to wisdom and inclining your heart to understanding. Yes, if you call out for insight and raise your voice for understanding, if you seek it like silver and search for it as for hidden treasures, then you will understand the fear of Yahweh and find the knowledge of God. Proverbs 3. Blessed is the one who finds wisdom and the one who gets understanding, for the gain from her is better than gain from silver, and her profit better than gold. She is more precious than jewels, and nothing you desire can compare with her. That's verses 13-15, Proverbs 4:7-8. The beginning of wisdom is this: get wisdom, and whatever you get insight. Sometimes people used to say back in the day, in your getting, make sure you get wisdom. Prize her highly, and she will exalt you. She will honor you if you embrace her. Parents inform of proper behavior. This is Proverbs 1:10-11, and verse 15. My son, if sinners entice you, do not consent. I literally was having a conversation with my son about this type of thing, literally just the other day, last night. If they say, come with us, let us lie and wait for blood. Let us ambush the innocent without a reason. Oh, man, y'all. My son, do not walk in the way with them. Hold back your foot from their paths. Proverbs 3:31-32. Do not envy a man of violence. Now, that's where really Hebrew Israelites of the One West varieties characters displayed. Somebody will do something violent towards someone, and they'll laud it as if it's a good thing. I've seen video after video, and I always quote this verse to them. I said, do not envy a man of violence, because they'll see something bad happen to someone of another ethnicity done by a so-called Israelite, and they get excited about it. The One Westers, they love posting those kind of videos, a knockout, even sometimes shootings. Do not choose any of his ways, but it's like it shows you they don't care what the Scripture says. For the devious person is an abomination to Yahweh, but the upright are in his confidence. Some of y'all are real shiesty, and the Lord hates you. That's what the scripture says when you extrapolate all this out together. Proverbs 1, now you see the parents explain the negative consequences of sin. This is supposed to happen. Verse 18 through 19, but these men lie in wait for their own blood. They set an ambush for their own lives. It'll always come back on you. Such are the ways of everyone who is greedy for unjust gain. It takes away the life of its possessors. Proverbs 5, 3 through 6. For the lips of a forbidden woman drip honey, and her speech is smoother than oil. But in the end, she is bitter as wormwood, sharp as two-edged sword. Her feet go down to death. Her steps follow the path to Sheol. She does not ponder the path of life. Her ways wander, and she does not know it. So Proverbs is explaining consequences for sin, and we should do the same thing to our children. Level 2 is a parental warning here. Parents gently exhort in light of dangers. Proverbs 4, 1 through 2. Hear, O sons, a father's instruction, and be attentive that you may gain insight, for I give you good precepts. Do not forsake my teaching. Proverbs 4, 14 through 16. This is basically where we say you should listen to your dad. And hopefully you're saying that because what you're drawing is from wisdom from the scriptures ultimately, right? Proverbs 4, 14 to 16 says, do not enter the path of the wicked. Do not walk in the way of the evil. Avoid it. Do not go on it. Turn away from it and pass on, for they cannot sleep unless they have done wrong. They are robbed of sleep unless they have made someone stumble. Level 2. Proverbs 5, 21 to 23. A man's ways are before the eyes of the Lord, and he ponders all his past. The iniquities of the wicked ensnare him, and he is held fast in the cords of his sin. He dies for lack of discipline, and because of his great folly, he is led astray. Now here's parental enforcing, level 3. And we're going to return to the story. I'm going to show you the court transcripts, but this is important to read. Listen to this. Gently rebuke and reprove without spanking at this level. Okay? Just give it a second. We're moving on here. And I do believe this is done well. Dr. Darush, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name right, but I love all his writings. Leaning on the work of Dr. Wagner. Great stuff. And notice how biblical it is. Proverbs 3:12. The Lord, I'm just going to say Yahweh because we know that's what it is. And Legacy Standard Bible now has Yahweh, so at least I can say it in accordance with the translation. Yahweh reproves him whom he loves as a father the son in whom he delights. Proverbs 24 through 25. Whoever says to the wicked, you are right, will be cursed by peoples, abhorred by nations. But those who rebuke the wicked will have delight, and a good blessing will come upon them. This is so powerful right here because this is where if you are giving affirmation to something that's being done wicked, the Bible says you're abhorred and cursed. You should rebuke those. Now, what do they do now? This is the next part of this level. Parents perform corporal discipline, i.e. spanking, in a way that does not cause physical harm. This is biblical, but notice the principle here. That's why the buttocks is the place where traditionally this has happened. And you have to ask yourself, is there another place where it would be appropriate? I think the answer is no, ultimately. Punching in the face and all this other kind of stuff. And notice how it's not the hand either. It's interesting. It's with the rod. And I think that's important because you're separating, in a way, the physical touch that you have towards your child with an instrument. And you kind of understand that, right? Your hands should be for loving and caring. Now, there could be rare exceptions when things happen. I get it. Meaning when you don't have time or something's an emergency, it's like immediately. But by and large, I think this is the way to do it. Just want to read this here. Proverbs 19:18, discipline your son, for there is hope. Do not set your heart on putting him to death. Saying if you don't discipline, that's what will happen. Proverbs 13:24, whoever spares the rod hates his son, but he who loves him is diligent to discipline him. So this is the biblical way, not what she did, and not what a lot of Hebrew Israelites teach. Proverbs 22:15, folly is bound up in the heart of a child. This shows the total depravity of even children. And I do think that I think this goes much better with the Calvinist anthropology than an Arminian anthropology, frankly. But the rod of discipline drives it far from him. Do not withhold discipline from a child. If you strike him with a rod, he will not die. If you strike him with a rod, you will save his soul from Sheol. So notice how it's not harmful here, because it's something that would not even be potentially fatal. All the other places you could land a blow or strike could be fatal. But a rod on the fatty part, not so much. Proverbs 29:15, the rod and reproof give wisdom, but a child left to himself brings shame to his mother. So they give a little context here for these things, and I found it very helpful here with the Bible verse as well. And I hope that you guys are finding this helpful. This is stuff that you could take a screenshot of. I did not create this. This is Dr. Wagner and then Dr. Darush. And you see that it's got great context and some great information here. Now, the next level is where the government gets involved, and that's exactly what's happening with this lady. Now, I'll play a commercial, and then what we're going to do is come back and look at some of the court transcripts. Here we go. All right, so continuing on here, I'm going to take away this from the screen now, and I'm going to look at some things that she actually said. I'll change what it says on the top. Listen, if you're coming in right now, I encourage you to vote in the poll. Please vote in the poll. And I also encourage you to leave a comment. And I also encourage you to hit the thumbs up, the like button. And right now we are going to look at actual court transcripts here. Okay? And so here in the Chronicle Live, what we have is where it actually shows transcripts from what was said in court. And the reporting was accurate in this case because I went through the transcripts and saw what the gal said with her own mouth here. And so you can see they do live updates of the trial. And this is from the cross-examining portion here. So I'm showing you the source here of the court transcripts. Now, I'm going to put some other ones on the screen. They may not all necessarily be in order, but let's take a look here at what was said. Okay, are you guys ready? Do you guys understand what we're doing here? All right. So some of these will repeat themselves, the nature of the screenshots, but we're going to take a look at these, and these are going to be important because you'll see what she says here, okay? So just give me 1 second. I've already got these lined up. I just need to put them on the screen for us to look at together. Okay. So it gives the time on a lot of these, and it'll give the person that is reporting it, I believe. And so these are actually quotes, okay? All right. And shout out to everyone in the live chat. Thank you. Only one person's done a super chat, but I do appreciate all those who have and do. You guys, we got some great people here. I just can't interact a lot because of the nature of this program. We're going a little bit long, but let's take a look. Let's take a little bit look of it there. Mr. Wright puts it to her that she was willing to correct him with violence when he was injured, and she disputes the use of the word violence. So this mom is upset that he used the word violence, the prosecutor. He asked what she would call hitting someone. She says she was going along with the Bible, which describes it as correction. So that's a paraphrase of what they said, but then you have quotes as well. Mr. Wright, did you not think, given the condition he was in, on that one occasion, you could have let it go and not hit him? She replied, no, I was going off the scriptures, which say to correct the child, so that I did that regardless of his condition. Remember, he's got burns all over his body that are festering with infection. Regardless of the situation, I felt it was best to correct a child when a child was wrong. That's what the book says. I was going along with the scriptures. How many Israelites tell you that when they do crazy stuff? We're just going along with the scriptures. That's what they tell us all the time when they do boot kissing. All these other wild practices they justify with the scriptures. And they sometimes inflict this on others. You beat him, Mr. Wright said. You beat him, caned him on part of his legs that weren't burned when you shook him forcibly. Even with burns, you injured him, Mr. Wright says. Even with the burns, you injured him, hitting him with a cane and a spoon. She said, no, that's not true. Well, what exactly is she disputing? I don't understand exactly what she's disputing there from Chronicle Live, UK, because it seems like that's exactly what happened. And look what she says here. She replied, I did use some items, yes, Mr. Wright. You hit him and used weapons on him. Not true. That's simply not true. Well, then what we describe, and notice they give the time there as well. See the time? They give the time in which these statements were uttered as well. So this is very helpful. I found it very helpful to take a look at, because you're seeing what she said in her own words, and you see that, oh wait, what just happened there? That's not what we want. No. Hold on, let me fix that here. Just a second. I got a problem there. Okay, I think we fixed it. Oh, it tried to drop in a video. That's what it's trying to do. Sorry about that, everyone. My bad. We'll get away from that. All right, continue on here with these screenshots, which are in her own words. She talks about what she did and why she did it. Christina Robinson in the UK from a place called Durham. All right, let's try to make this one as big as we can here, because this one I did a little bit. Now there may be some repetition here, as I talked about earlier. I may show repetition with some of these, but this is bad stuff right here. Look at what it says here. Robinson is asked about the day of the alleged murder, November 5th. She said Dwayne and I was eating a cheese bap and some leftovers from the night before. He went limp. His head was sort of lolled to the side. He made a gargling, gasping sound. After that gargling sound, I did go to him. I lay him down to see what was going on. I was calling his name, no response. After that, I grabbed him and made a run for it. Now look what it says right here. Robinson talks about her religion. She's a Black Hebrew Israelite, she says. Robinson says she was a member of a religion called the Black Hebrew Israelites, which she describes as, quote, more of a lifestyle than a religion, end quote. She says her mother and sisters also follow it. It involves reading and following the Bible, and they have a Sabbath on a Saturday. So how fascinating and awful is this? The whole family has got into this thing. So maybe they did it first, and now she's in it. So the family is all about the Hebrew Israelite faith. And notice, even with what earlier people were talking about, did you see the one Sister Abdi or whatever was in here? Oh, it's not a religion. It's a lifestyle. It's a culture. Literally what she says, they're literally repeating the same thing. Case resumes after lunch. Christina Robinson continues to give evidence. Are you guys seeing this? These, again, are court transcripts. This is what she says. All right, there it is. There it is, right there. Okay, I just want to do this again. There it is. From the court transcript themselves. Big and bold for all to see. Here, let me make it the size right. Yes, I'm going overboard in pointing this out and whatnot, and showing this. I think it's very important. And I think if you guys don't get it, part of this is like me trying to explain to you, why we do what we do. Hopefully you see like, oh, okay, there's a reason why they're doing this. This is dangerous. Because it is. I think a lot of you know that. But if you don't, now you do, right? All right, continue on here. This is so hard to read, but again, watch your own quote here. I got to make it bigger here. Ready? Mr. Wright, my question was what he had done to require the level of discipline. It was in regards to the food, being disobedient. He was making a mess of the food. I believed I was doing the right thing at the time. And look at this. Look what it says here. Mr. Wright, what had that little boy done to deserve a beating with a cane? She replied. And this is what's really weird is what she says here. What I had misheard from the scriptural lesson, I believe the use of the rod was the correct implement to use to discipline a child. What exactly did she mishear? What does she mean by that? Because in other contexts, she said that's exactly what it's supposed to be. Now she's trying to say she misheard it. Remember, I screenshotted this, so I'm showing this. But she's saying she misunderstood it? Well, what was said then? The scriptural lesson, I believe the use of the rod was the correct implement to use to discipline a child. What, it was something else? That's not what it said? Well, then what did it say? What do you mean? You misheard it. She's going along with the Bible, going off scriptures. You see this? That's what the book says. I was going along with the scriptures. Now, her whole family's into this. I wonder what her family is saying, about this. Look at this. What would a 2 or 3-year-old need to do to get the back of your hand after a apology replies disobedience? Imagine slapping a back, imagine slapping a 2 or 3-year-old. Oh my goodness. Pressed on whether November 5th was the first time she had used the cane or any other weapon on Dwayne Robinson, she said, I'm sorry I had used the spoon. Mr. Wright said, are there any passages in the Bible about spoons? It's kind of a good question, right? You can't blame that on the Bible. Or is that something you decided to do yourself? She replied, the Bible is about correction. I know a lot of you can't handle any more of this. I won't go on and on forever, but there's a couple more things I do need to read. Okay? There's a couple more things I do need to read. So now she's saying she believes she was misguided. Honestly, I thought I was doing the right thing. These are court transcripts from Christina Robinson, who's been accused of murdering her child in the UK. And right now the jury's they're having their discussions. So pretty soon we're going to get some kind of verdict out of the UK on this story. This is very fresh. And I've taken time to show you the story, show you what she said, and then show you what the Word of God says. Notice how I'm not just rambling what I heard. You can see it so you can make your own judgment. Honestly, I thought I was doing the right thing, she says. I was just happy and eager to jump into something that felt like me, that felt like I belonged. Isn't that the story of the Hebrew Israelite religion? They're just happy and eager to jump into something that felt like them, that feels like they belong. But look what she says. But I just got it all wrong. I didn't know what I was doing. Well, you have a lot of novices in this religion that are getting teaching, and then they're, teaching themselves, or they're parenting children, and, that's not the place to experiment. But these teachers aren't helping them. I thought I was doing it right. I just really wanted to be obedient to God, and I thought this was part of it. I believed I was misguided. Now, with what? I mean, notice how she's trying to say this, but where in the Bible would we get the idea you should scald your children with hot water, shake them to death? That he died of a brain injury. I mean, come on, man. How hard would you have to shake your child for this to happen, I believe that now I've had a lot more time to learn and had the opportunity to get into the Bible more. So she's deeper in the Hebrew Israelite thing now, apparently. And learn more from the Bible and to get to know God more. My relationship with him is, it's great. Now, looking back, I can see how much of a babe I was then, like beginner. I saw something, I jumped into it, I was excited about it, but I just got it wrong. Unless she's saying she's no longer part of it, but the court transcripts seem to be that she still is in this. There's so much confusion in this religion. It's not just the teachers, it's the people themselves. They're incredibly confused. Robinson did not mean to inflict Z-shaped mark. Robinson said she did not inflict a Z mark with the cane deliberately. She said this was the first time she'd used the cane to hit him. Mr. O asked how she feels about now that she did. She replied, I felt like at the time I was learning more about that lifestyle. Notice again how much of the transcript from the court has to do with her being a Hebrew Israelite and studying what you're supposed to do and all that. Complete beginner, didn't know very much. I was just observing because it was something more like my ancestors had done. It was more of a bloodline type thing, but I didn't have any understanding. You guys see this? This is literally, she's just talking the way, how is it all Hebrew Israelites talk the same? It's because it's a giant echo chamber filled with parrots. Robinson did not mean to inflict Z-shaped mark. Mr. O asked how, I feel like at the time I was learning more about that lifestyle. Complete beginner, didn't know very much. I was just observing because it was something more like my ancestors had done. It was more of a bloodline type thing, but I didn't have any understanding. What about your ancestral practice would lead you to kill your own children? Asked why she used the cane, she said, this stems from the teachings that I was listening to, watching on YouTube. The video itself was not about chastisement, but it was something that had been mentioned, and this had quoted certain scriptures which promoted using the rod for correction. So it stemmed from there because it was scripture, and there were a few scriptures pulled from the Bible. I took it as this must be the way to do it, the way to chastise, to discipline a child, end quote. These are quotes. By the way, Alan Torres came in and gave a very good super chat. Alan Torres, thank you. I know this is a hard show, but I appreciate your support. You've been very supportive, especially lately. And I just want to thank you very much, Alan Torres. You give me, you and Larry Love and some of the other brothers give me strength to carry on, especially, I've talked a little about this, but we're in a situation where we've got to move the location of our ministry. It's still in Phoenix, Arizona, but we got to move. And the result's going to be, rent's going to be doubled. No joke, literally doubled. Going to go from one amount to another amount. I've told some people a certain amount. You know, it's not like there's a lot of money flowing, but sometimes when I get in my flesh and worry, I'm like, you know what? The brothers and sisters come through. We're going to be all right. And so I believe that is the case. So I just want to thank you guys again, seriously, as we continue on and keep on doing this, because this needs to get out there, doesn't it? Because this deals with real people's real lives. This is serious stuff. Because at the end of the day, here's what we're talking about. That's what they're talking about at the end of the day. That should be a challenge to all of us. That should be something that we really look at. I have had a number of people call me about situations with Hebrew Israelites and their families. And I just can't give details about this kind of thing. Now, nothing like this case, of course. But let me just say that it is a very serious issue that I deal with on a regular basis. And it is intense. And this program is sort of just a window into that world. Now, I really do ask the believers not to just respond in anger or rage. I ask you to respond in love, care, and patience. Pray for the children and the family members who are caught up with people leading households who are into this stuff. Pray for parents to come out of it. Pray that God would preserve children through this. Pray for this family. Maybe this will wake up this family that they are going the wrong way. Because remember, she said they're sisters and moms, so they've got a grandchild and a nephew who is no longer on the earth because of what happened. I hope that it's a wake-up call. And to you, Hebrew Israelites who are being very defensive about this, don't blame the messenger. And ask yourself, where is your heart really at? Because is your passion more in getting mad at me and being angry towards me and being mad about a certain word used in the reporting by the BBC? Or is it about this child who is no longer on the earth as of November 2022 because of these actions? I'm not just saying that sanctimoniously. I'm dead serious. So these are the things I hope we can consider. Now, look, I got some more live streams planned. Very important stuff. For example, we need to talk about this book that I got that I talked about a while ago by William Crowley. We need to talk about that. We need to talk about so many things. And I really just sometimes say, man, there's so much we need to cover. And we just run out of time. But God is good. I think it'll work out. Now, little by little, you're going to see behind me, the studio kind of breaking down as we're in the middle of a move. And I don't know where I'm going to be going live from. I don't know what the connection is going to be like. But y'all just keep on praying. And I really appreciate every person who supports. And again, remember, these kids, you got to pray for these kids. Sally says, poor baby died a cruel death over a twisted satanic interpretation of the Bible. So sad and infuriating. HI needs to be called out for what it is. Can't say I disagree with a word of that. Exactly right. Many more comments are worthy that I would have liked to shown tonight. I just can't. But I see a lot of your comments, and I really appreciate a lot of what you say. And just know that, you know, when we have a conversation here with a Hebrew Israelite, you might be talking to someone who's a father as well. You might be talking to someone who's a mother as well. We understand this is not happening to all their children. We understand that. But I hope we do understand there's a lot of this going around in the community, and it's serious and intense. Well, more to say, but we're going to have to schedule another live later this week. And I love y'all and appreciate the support during these types of programs. I pray that you were able to learn more about biblical discipline, though, in the context of this, and hopefully understand why we do what we do. God bless y'all. God bless. Peace out. Shalom. Talk to you later.